Hey everyone, my name is Jennifer Hernandez, and if you don't know me, I'm a registered dietitian, a former dietetics educator, and a recovering imposter. So on Sunday, I was able to present some research that I've been doing as part of a PhD program where I looked at imposter phenomenon in registered dietitians. Now, I know that not everybody could go to the Food and Nutrition Conference and Exposition because, maybe you're not a dietitian. It's really expensive to travel, and so not everyone could be there. But I wanted to share with you my research because not only do I think that it's a really interesting topic, but a lot of people that I talked to on Sunday thought so as well. And so I want you to know that if you feel like this, you are not alone. So, to give you some background, like I said, I used to be an educator. I was a program director for a graduate program in nutrition and dietetics. And we told our students, we thought that all of our students were going to go to the one and only hospital in town, and that I was going to go with them as a clinical instructor. And so my students, they had a level of familiarity with me. There was that comfort of knowing that they were going to know the person that they were going to be working with. And then the hospital said, that can't possibly happen. And so I had to go back to them and tell them, sorry, you're not going to be with me. And what I told them was, but the good news is you are going to be with real dietitians. Now, a couple of weeks later, I was walking past a coworker's office and I heard her say the same thing. I heard her say something about real dietitians. And I just stopped for a moment and said, if she and I have both been dietitians for 20 years, which I hate to admit it, but we had been at the time, why do neither of us feel like real dietitians? And another coworker said, well, there's a phrase for that. And that phrase is imposter phenomenon. Imposter phenomenon is the feeling of being a fake, a fraud, of not deserving your successes or achievements. And it was identified in about the 1970s by some psychotherapists. It was originally identified in women and has since been researched in a variety of fields, including almost every healthcare profession. But when I started looking into this in 2019, there was nothing in dietitians. Now, there is now. I did my study. Another dietitian named Matthew Landry had a group of people that he worked with, and he has a study. It's published. Go look up his study. It's amazing. Check it out. Check out what he did. Someday, my study will be published. So, we're adding to this field of knowledge. But this was identified in these highly achieving people, mostly who had PhDs and doctorates. And as the research has grown, we're seeing that it is in both men and women, and it's in a variety of people. Now, I wanted to look specifically at registered dietitians because that is what I am, and that's the group of people that I work with. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably know what dietitians are, but just in case you don't, dietitians are food and nutrition experts. They have to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree, but starting in 2024, that is increasing to a minimum of a master's degree. They also have to do 1,000 hours of supervised practice with other nutrition professionals who are out working in the field. Coursework to become a dietitian includes all sorts of sciences, as well as a ton of different nutrition classes looking at nutrition across the life cycle, nutrition in various health and disease states, and food service and the way that food impacts our bodies. After the completion of all of those educational requirements, then you have to pass a national credentialing exam. And let me tell you, it is not the easiest. It's possible, but it's not the easiest. It's not something that you're going to go into without studying. And now to stay a dietitian, you have to complete 75 continuing education hours every 5 years. There are over 100,000 registered dietitians in the United States, and the overwhelming majority are female, which, considering that imposter phenomenon was discovered or initially identified in women, that made it something that I wanted to see, well, how are dietitians falling on this spectrum? Now, like I said, you probably already knew that. If you don't, if dietetics is a new career field for you and you want to learn more, I have a video about how to become a dietitian. It's up here, or maybe it's over here, but it'll be up here somewhere. And click on that if you need to learn more about becoming a dietitian. All right, so what did I do? How did we look at imposter phenomenon in registered dietitians? Well, like I said, it was initially identified by some psychotherapists. One of them is named Dr. Pauline Clance, and she identified the Clance imposter phenomenon scale. And so we sent out the Clance imposter phenomenon scale to 5,000 credentialed nutrition providers in the United States. The first question asked if they had been working as a dietitian in the past 12 months, and if the person said no, it stopped the survey because I really wanted to look at this condition in practicing nutrition professionals. We looked at the highest degree earned because, as I said before, it was initially identified in those highly achieving women, people that were in grad school or had a doctoral degree. We also looked at years of experience as a dietitian. Now, the initial research, Dr. Clance said that imposter phenomenon is a self-perpetuating phenomenon or syndrome, and that if I have these imposter ideas, then no matter what you say to me, I'm always going to feel like an imposter. I'm not going to believe anything you have to say, and I'm going to let my imposter voice win out. However, there is a published study in physician assistant graduates that showed that the level of imposter feelings declined at 5 years after graduation. And if you turn to like organizational psychology, there is this theory that it takes 5 years to become an expert in an area. So it would make sense that we have these feelings of lack of confidence in the first 5 years in the profession. But then, by 5 years, we should feel pretty comfortable in our job and what we're doing. So then, of course, we had the Clance imposter phenomenon scale, and we did some statistical analysis of it. All right, so what did we find? Well, first of all, we found that only about 23% of dietitians, or almost 1/4, really had no feelings or minimal feelings of imposterism. Almost half of the respondents in the survey had some level of imposter feelings. And if you look at this, almost 1/3 of respondents had these higher levels of imposterism. So this is concerning that we have somewhere between 1/3 to 3/4 of our profession potentially walking around feeling like they are fake or a fraud and having this fear that people are going to find out that they don't really know what they're talking about. Now, remember, we talked about high achieving women, right? So we looked at highest degree earned. There was no statistically significant difference between the highest degree earned of the dietitians that responded to this survey. Now, something that was interesting but not significant is that these intense imposter phenomenon feelings, that highest level, completely disappeared in the people with doctoral degrees that responded to this survey. Now, remember, this was just a small sample of the 100,000 dietitians, so that's not to say that this is true for everyone, but it was interesting to think that this was initially identified in people with those higher levels of degrees, but within this sample, the highest amount of imposter phenomenon did not exist with the people with doctoral degrees. But if you look at this, there's still an incredible percentage of people that have that moderate and frequent, which the frequent was the third level. Now, if we come back down here to years of experience, we can see that that highest level dropped out by 15 years of experience. Now, I just talked about, we would expect to see it at about 5, and it lingered until 15 years. When we look at that third highest level, it drops really slowly until about retirement. And then that gets replaced with this moderate level, right? So people that are walking around kind of feeling like a fake or kind of feeling like they don't deserve what they've gotten and just not truly confident. That lowest level of imposter phenomenon does not overtake anything else literally until people have been in the field for 40 years. All right, so what did I take from this? First of all, when we think about the disconnect between the highest degree earned and the fact that this was initially found in those highly achieving women, is that, in my opinion, anyone who has jumped through all of the hoops to become a registered dietitian is highly achieving. So friend, if you are a dietitian, you are highly achieving, regardless of what degree you stopped at or are currently at. Now, the other thing that spoke to me is that it took 15 years, right? And I really want to shift that to a shorter time frame. It's my hope and desire to find ways to intervene and decrease the amount of time that it takes to gain confidence so that we have an inspired and empowered profession. And I hope that you'll come with me on the journey to decreasing those imposter feelings.